Hey, I'm at my friend Clay Boardman's house today, and he has asked me to help him with his supper club tonight. Clay's a bachelor, but he loves to entertain, has a fabulous home. I can't wait to show it to you, and we're going to have a lot of fun in his kitchen today. I'm putting together 3 of my favorite dishes for supper club. The first one is a pork tenderloin. I make this a lot myself during the holidays, but it's a great dish to do when you've got other things going on for the meal. I'm also going to put together my squash casserole. It's a family favorite, but I've put a twist on it. And then finally, a rice dish that's not a casserole. It's something really special, very easy to make, just perfect with these other 2 dishes. So come back and join me. I'm going to be also transforming Clay's beautiful, elegant dining room into a marriage of casual versus elegance. So we're going to have a great time. I hope you'll stick around. I'm at my friend Clay's house in his beautiful kitchen, and he's asked me to help him with supper club that he's doing tonight. So we've chosen pork tenderloin as the entree, and what I'm going to do is just take a little salt and pepper and get these seasoned. Nice coarse pepper and kosher salt, and then I want to put some garlic in this. The aroma will just be fantastic, and it's going to go through. So I'm taking my sharp knife and just making some indentions on the top of the pork, and then the garlic cloves will just stick right down in there like that, and these will almost dissolve when the pork tenderloin is cooking. All right, so now I'm going to take these over to the stove, and I've got some butter that I have melted in a big saute pan, and we're going to transfer these beautiful tenderloins to the pan, and these are just going to brown for about anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. So that'll be smelling this Boardman house up really great. And in the meantime, I'm going to get started on my delicious squash casserole. So let me get this turned on over here. So we'll be paying attention to both of these. Now what I've done here, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can either put 2 or 3 pieces of bacon in this pan, cut it up into little pieces to get your bacon drippings, and use the bacon in the dish, or you can just use bacon drippings that you might have in the refrigerator. And so to that, I am going to add, I've started with a Vidalia onion, and I'm just going to cut that into small pieces. And honestly, a lot of times I call this squash and onion casserole, because the more onion you have, to me, the better it is. So I'm going to add that first and get this sauteing into the pan. And this time of year, these onions are just wonderful. I keep them in the refrigerator in between use. They're going to last a lot longer if you keep them in the refrigerator. Okay, so that's going to be sauteing over here. Then I've started on my little yellow squash. And one of the things that I love to do when I'm making a fresh squash is to taste it and see if there's any sweetness in it. Because what I'm going to do, this is kind of semi-sweet. I'm going to add just a little bit of sugar to this to kind of sweeten up that squash while we're going. So let's look over here and see how these tenderloins are going. They look like they're doing great. All right, and back to this. I've got some of these already cut up. I'm going to add the squash to this. And that's just going to stir around. All right, let me flip these tenderloins. And we're going to be adding some other ingredients to that in just a second. All right, so we've got this nice and brown, and I'm just at this point going to lift it into a casserole dish. And then these wonderful juices in this pan, I'm going to add the secret ingredient, which is grape jelly today. I'm going to just add a cup of grape jelly, another 1/4 of a cup of butter. And this is going to just stir around. I'm going to let that stir up. And this is going to go over the sauce. Okay, once you have this nice and dissolved, the jellies have dissolved, I'm going to turn the heat off. And this is just going to be poured right on these nicely browned tenderloins. And now this is going to get covered with aluminum foil, and it will go into a 350-degree oven for 30 minutes. I've taken this out of the oven now. I'm going to take the aluminum foil off, and this is the last step to this dish: a 1/2 cup of red wine to 3/4 a cup of chili sauce. And then this is going to go on the outside where the sauce is. We cover it back with aluminum foil, and it goes in the oven for the last 10 minutes. Welcome back, and it looks like this squash is cooked down just right. Smells wonderful with the bacon and onions. So I'm going to bring this over to my cooking station, and I'm at Clay Boardman's house helping him today get ready for supper club tonight. And this dish is going to be one of the sides. One of the things that's wonderful about this is that you can do the rest of the preparation directly in the frying pan. So to the cooked down squash, onions, and bacon, I'm going to add a can of cream of celery soup, a 1/2 cup of sour cream. And then one of the things I really love about this recipe, and this is optional, is just for some color, I've grated up a carrot. So I'm just going to add that. And then I want to put 2 beaten eggs in, and that's going to give the casserole the volume and the ability to puff up while it's baking. This is going to be so good. So let me just whip that. Get that nice and butter. And I added a little sugar, remember, when I was cooking this down. The squash was sweet, but not quite as sweet as I wanted it to be, so I decided to add a little extra sugar to the mixture. So now my saucepan becomes my mixing bowl, and I'm just going to mix this together. Let's add a little pepper and salt. This is looking really pretty, and you see how nice the color combination with the carrots goes with this. All right, so I've got a casserole dish that I've prepared to put this in. Just spray it with a little bit of pan coating. And the last thing I'm going to do before it goes in the pan, and I've got some Ritz crackers, and I'm just going to crumb those up. About a 1/2 cup to this mixture, and this was 3 pounds of squash. Mix that together. And this time of year, at this point, I could have even made this a little bit ahead of time. All right, so this is ready to go in the pan. I'll just move this over. Goes right in the casserole dish, and then I'm going to top it with some more of the crushed cracker crumbs. And this will serve about 10 people, 3 pounds of squash. So just a few more of these on the top. And again, if you're wanting to do this ahead, at this point it could go directly in the freezer. Just wrap it up good with saran wrap and freeze it for another time. This will be ready to pop into the oven for our meal tonight in just a little bit. So I'm going to move this over, and then I've got a surprise on a rice casserole. This is very simple to make, and what I've done ahead of time was I took a cup of rice, and I use Uncle Ben's. I've got 5 bouillon cubes, 2 cups of water, and I put a half a stick of butter in a frying pan, browned the rice. I put it into the casserole dish, covered it with the water and bouillon cubes, and I baked it for 30 minutes. So now at this point, this is where the trick comes in. I'm going to add to that a half a cup of slivered almonds, and then a half a cup of chopped celery. And celery is what really makes the nice crunch. That and the nuts in this dish really make it nice. So I've got that. And then a half a cup of spring onion. And just enough to make it be able to taste a little bit of that onion in there. All right. So I'm going to put that in. I'm going to just stir this with my fork, cover it with aluminum foil. This is going to go back in the oven for 30 minutes. And when we come back, I'm going to show you how I'm going to transform Clay's dining room into something that's really cool using burlap. Got a lot of great ideas with some of his silver candlesticks. It's going to be a beautiful party. So please come back and help me set the table. My favorite part of entertaining actually is setting the table, so I'm really happy. Clay's got a gorgeous, very handsome dining room, and I'm going to transition this into formal meets casual with components to incorporate our Southern culture. So I've got burlap, cotton, magnolia, pine, all the things we love, and then sterling silver, which you see a lot of in Clay's home. So let's get together on this and see what we can come up with. I went to the fabric store, got some yardage of burlap, so I've created a runner that's going to go down the table. And I just cut the yardage in half to create the length that I needed to go all the way up and down the table. So let me get that spread out evenly. And then cotton is wonderful to use once it's dried. So I've had some of this that I've saved from when I go back and forth to Beaufort on the weekends, but you can pick this up from your local florist a lot of times. They'll dry it and they'll have it for sale in their store. Some of the other components I'm using today are silk. Now I could run out in Clay's yard right now and pick anything I'm showing you today except the cotton, but the magnolia leaves that are silk are a wonderful investment for you to not have to go into the yard or your neighbor's yard when you need greenery for the table. So look, check with your florist on those sorts of things as well. To that, I'm going to add some artificial pine. And doesn't it look beautiful? I've used this over and over for years. I've probably had this for 10 years. But between the real cotton, the artificial pine, and then the silk magnolia, I'm beginning to create something that looks very much like the property where we are right here today. To that, I'm going to add some of Clay's silver candlesticks. Just went through the house, pulled things off of shelves, found things that I thought would work. So I'm going to start placing those for the length. And then the way I'm going to pull the whole look of the night together is in my attic, I had some gold charger plates that have really gotten a little bit kind of crummy looking. So I bought some black spray paint. I sprayed the gold charger with the black spray paint and then chalkboard paint. So I got that, I painted the whole charger, and instead of using gold chargers tonight, which for a formal affair would look great, I'm using a chalk charger. And I'm going to show you in a few minutes what we're going to do with that. But there's the black charger, which is so handsome in his dining room. I'm going to dress it with my silverware here. So I'm incorporating the silver in the candlesticks. And then finally, I want to use a napkin and pull in the burlap runner. And so I've just cut strips of burlap and I'm going to tie just a little knot around the napkin. And there I've created a very handsome way to showcase your napkin. So I will continue to work on this project, got lots of other things that I'm going to incorporate in, but when we come back, I'm going to show you how to turn this black chalkboard charger not only into your place card, but also your menu card, and better than that, I'm going to help Clay put the finishing touches on the food we made earlier so we can get that ready for his guests. So come back with us. Expressions of sympathy can sometimes be awkward. You know, we all immediately think of food and flowers, which are wonderful things to do, but there's so many other things that you could possibly do to a neighbor or to a relative or good friend when someone passes away. Something as simple as offering to cut the grass or doing some light housework or running some errands is always a wonderful gesture. Another thing that you could do would be to take paper products. You know, people don't think about that generally, and it's so needed. We always wonder if there's a way that you could maybe make a contribution, and generally you'll find that information in the obituaries. But finally, there's nothing like a personal note to let that person know right away or even later how much the person that passed away meant to you and how they might have affected you in your life. You know, there could not be anything more spectacular to me than a beautifully presented table. And here is one that is not only handsome, it's elegant at the same time, and I'm so excited. You know, I went out and pulled together some of my silks, have mixed it with some fresh, have Clay's silver candlesticks on the table, his beautiful silverware, and it's just coming together great. For the meal tonight, I prepared my holiday pork tenderloin, which is going to be so delicious, moist, has a wonderful sauce. I've got the squash casserole with the new twist with the carrots in that. And then finally, a rice dish that has celery and almonds and spring onions is going to be beautiful on the plate. And then the other guests that are coming tonight are bringing things that are going to go with it. So when you're putting together the idea for a supper club, I want you to think of so many possibilities. You know, you can do nothing but host it. You could do the entree and ask the guests that are coming to bring a complimentary side dish to go with what you've suggested for the entree. You could plan the entire meal with the recipes, assign recipes to people that are part of the group and ask them to make those recipes. Then you would have a booklet of what was done every time you had supper club. So there are many, many ways to go about it. One of the things that I love the most about supper clubs is it gives you the reason and the opportunity to put together a either casual setting or a formal setting. It gives you a little bit more comfort when there are reasons to have guests over that aren't your usual friends that you see on a regular basis. That's you know, part of the practice of entertaining and making it comfortable. So I have everything set up for 8. It's just going beautifully. I want to you know, certainly suggest when you're using candles on a table, even before the guests come and you light the candle, just have the wick lit so that it's black on the top. That's just one of those little etiquette quirks. And then what I've done tonight to the table that I'm so excited about is that, as I told you, I spray painted the chargers black, and then I went over them with chalk paint. And as you can see, the plate is now not only the charger, but is the menu and the name of the person that's sitting at that place. So this has turned out to be a very special aspect. So again, it was a chalk covered charger, and I'll just take the one from here. And let's see, I'll let this be Clay's. So I'll write his name at the top. And then when you go to set the table, you just want to make sure that the dinner plate sits a little off center towards the edge of the table so that everyone can see their name. Supper club, whether it's supper club, whether it's dinner club, whether it's a theme club, it's certainly always fun to have a reason to have dinner. Tonight I've tied the napkins with burlap, which is going to be really neat. You could do something special to that, put a little charm of some sort or something that they could take with them. That could become the favor. So there are always ways. Okay, that sounds like the doorbell. I knew someone was coming early tonight that made a dish that had to stay in the oven for about an hour, so let me get the door. But in the meantime, I want to just thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you've learned a little bit about supper clubs, and if you don't have one formed, maybe now's the perfect time to do it. It's such a great opportunity to feel more comfortable in the kitchen and more comfortable with entertaining. So just remember, whatever you do, do it in good taste. And speaking of that, I better get the door. Join me next week. Got another great show.